Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Today we are going to discuss the new chapter, which is called Theory of Property, al-Mal. So this is what going to be the outline for the entire chapter. So this is going to be taking like this class and then the next class together. What we are going to do in this, we're going to talk about the private property itself, because now we are getting into the real subject. Because all these weeks, the previous weeks, we've been discussing the basic fundamental things that you need to know when it comes to fiqh al-Muamalat. So we started talking about the introductory chapter where we discussed Islam, Sharia, Akhlaq, Aqidah, Ihsan, Akhlaq, and then yeah, we talked about all these terminologies, and then we moved to fiqh, and then usul al-fiqh, and then we talked about the primary and secondary sources. Then we talked about the rules of Sharia, then objectives, maqasid of Sharia. Then we talked about al-qawaid al-fiqhiyya. The last one was legal maxims. So this is what actually so far we discussed in last 3 to 4 weeks. This is what actually the basic, the fundamental things that you should know. Without those fundamental things, it will be difficult for you to relate yourself relate yourself to the upcoming sessions, upcoming chapters. So now we are no more talking about the fiqh like everybody talk about, because usually when you go to any fiqh class, they will start talking about tahara, for example, the purification. They'll talk about the kitab al-wudu, kitab al-salat, kitab, as-sawm, these are the fiqh al-ibadat, we call it. So they will discuss, usually in the fiqh classes, they will discuss fiqh al-ibadat, the worships. What are the worships related fiqh to the worships. But this class, especially this faculty that we are today, we have registered to this faculty. Our concern is to talk about fiqh al-Muamalat. So the real transactions, the Muamalat, the Islamic commerce, you can call it commercial jurisprudence or economic jurisprudence, which starts now. That's what going to be the fundamental thing for any economy is actually the wealth. Without wealth, there is no talk about economy, right? Because at the end of the day, if you want to know the definition of economics, it has to be the science which studies the human behavior relation to the scars and means and ends. So then what are the alternative resources for those means and ends? So this is what actually we need to discuss when we talk about economics. So now the same thing we have to start when we talk about fiqh al-muamalat. It has to be al-mal. So now this is what the importance of mal we will talk about, and then we will go to definition of property. All right. Then we will discuss the classification of property. This is where you are going to classify, divide properties into many cases. The reason why we classifying the property, maybe some of the examples may go into more than one classification. Same example can also contribute to more than one. For example, valuable, movable, similar. It could be more than one. But there are consequences that for each and every classification. Why the fuqaha, they classified into so far we have 6 classification of property. Why they have done it, that is very important to know, because there are consequences, because if there is no consequences, there is no fiqh. What happened in this scenario? We have this situation, we have these problems. So what is the solution? You see that this is what consequences. So according to those consequences, they have classified the properties into six. So we are going to end with that. Then inshallah we will be finishing this chapter. So talking about the importance of property, of course, property is the subject matter of ownership and all transactions. It is also ranked, I think recently you learned about property wealth. It is one of the essential five fundamental values of maqasid sharia. All right. Um, and if I ask you what do you think about property, you will be saying, of course, everybody wants property because it's kind of security, it kind of beneficiary, it's a kind of resource that you need so that you and your family can have a life with dignity, right? And then the wealth that you are acquiring can help you to have the hope for the future. Okay, I have this wealth, so this wealth inshallah will give me some sustenance. Of course, Allah is a sustainer, Allah is the one who gives you the sustenance, but there are asbab, right? This world is alamul asbab. What does it mean? It means that this universe is full of causes. So Allah has created the cause, and through the causes Allah will give you the sustenance. So now one of the causes is actually is a property. It could be your education, it could be your position in the job, it could be something else, but one of the cause to give you the sustenance is actually wealth, right? So everything is based on how you treat it. So when we talk about the concept of property, it can include many different forms of wealth, right? So because I told you mal, we need to understand what exactly mal, right? When I told you wealth, you also need to understand what do we mean by wealth, right? Because sometimes the word wealth can be used metaphorically. Sometimes people gives examples like wealth. Sometimes some wealth are counted. Sometimes some wealth is not counted. For example, they say that your knowledge is a wealth, but it is not something that physically you can see, right? They will say sometimes, your akhlaq, your morality is your wealth, huh? But you cannot actually sell your morality, because usually you can sell your wealth, you can do the exchange, you can do the barter exchange, meaning to say that which with mutual consent, you can actually give it to someone and you can get something else. That is what actually the meaning of the wealth, right? But um, sometimes it also been used metaphorically, like I told you just now. They will say that good intention is the wealth. uh, Even we have a word like commonwealth, for example. Those countries that British ruled, it is all those countries, for example, India, Malaysia, right, Singapore, or maybe Australia, or maybe Bangladesh, Pakistan. These are the countries. Many other countries. It comes under one umbrella called Commonwealth countries, right? So the word wealth is there, but here we are talking about the literal meaning of the wealth. Hmm? Something that you can exchange with, all right? Something you can use it for the transaction, right? That is what actually we call it wealth. But still, this wealth not necessarily has to be not necessarily has to be the same thing for all the time, right? It can also take different form. Last time rice was of course today also rice is wealth, but if someone convert the rice into something, for example, it become food, or maybe it become a drink, or maybe it can become into liquid, Understand? Or maybe it can liquid into gas, right? It can also become wealth. You understand my point? So because last time people were selling the raw materials from one end to the another end, but now not everybody is selling the raw materials, because companies, the corporate companies, they are going and collecting all the raw materials from the farmers, and then they are actually manufacturing. They are actually making, producing something into, they call it packages, packets, packs, boxes, and so many things. Of course, every single thing you see in a supermarket, you don't see much the raw materials. You don't see the raw materials like old days. When you go to any shop, they will say, okay, go to this machi or pachi shop, and then they will ask you to buy something of the raw materials. Maybe if you remember, it will be like, okay, go and buy 100 gram of flour, or maybe 250 gram of sugar, these kind of things. But now it will be like, loose. They call it a loose market, loose product. So they will just take it, and then they put it, and then they will do the scaling, and then they will put it in the packet and then give it to you. Even the spices and everything. But maybe so now still it's not like completely not there. It is there, but it is not actually dominating. It is still there. Some compounds still doing the same thing like the old days, the traditional selling, traditional thing that they are doing, but it is not dominating. Now, what is dominating is actually the corporate companies. They are the one who buy the raw materials from the farmers, and then they manufacture, they change into something, or they add something, or they also mix with something. uh, Maybe you don't have the real honey anymore. Last time you can buy honey from kampong. You go there, and then you take 100 gram or 200 gram, or maybe 1 liter, 2 liter. But now it comes in bottles, and we don't know the authenticity of the honey. We don't know how much water in it. We don't know how much sugar in it, right? So we don't know exactly. The same thing goes to so many other products, whether it is oil, whether it is spices, whether it is you can carry on, you can go on, the list goes on. Because people today, they wish to uh, they don't have enough time to go and cook and create something. They are out of option. So what they do, they go, and mm, if there is a frozen food available in the supermarket, they are really like to get it. Like we love Maggie today. That's the reason why we love Maggie. It's because it's 2 minutes only. It takes only 2 minutes to prepare, to finish, and then even today people go beyond. They want to make even they want to become even smarter than they are actually making it. Just add only hot water and then eat. Last time, of course, it's like you open the Maggie and then you cook yourself. It's a kind of good thing. But now even they don't have time. I know some of you may have had, or you had some Maggie for this breakfast today, right? Which is we call ready-made Maggie. You just need to add only hot water and just put some powder for serve. So what I'm trying to tell you, so the real property that you need to understand, the raw materials. Those are the real properties. Now the properties has changed, have the properties have taken different forms. Like for example, even not necessarily it has to be the raw, it has to be something that you see, you see visible, something that you physically take. Even the non-physical, because these modern terms, these modern forms of wealth were not there earlier, right? For example, intellectual properties, all right, patents, copyrights. You see, the copyrights and all, it was not there. Confidential information, right? Even, you know, you can actually, in America, you can actually pay someone not to give the confidence, not to give the information. They call it, I think, N, NCO or something, NCO or NCR. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I heard, but I didn't remember. Which means that non-confidential, something like that. You know, you cannot reveal the truth to someone, and there are legal terms. You know, not to reveal the secret of, you know, maybe, for example, secret recipe. You know, the recipe of your food. Someone can come and buy your recipe and then make you shut you down, make you shut up. Meaning to say, you cannot reveal that particular secret to anybody. If in case you revealed, then they will sue you. You understand? So there are so many ways of, you know, property. So that's the reason why. Uh, so when we talk about al-mal, I want you to bring everything into consideration. I want you to think about it, and then I want you to, you know, from here I want you to make your own thinking. You know how this one, because the problem today, you know, the problem today, that when we talk about Quran and Sunnah, we we are not understanding the reality of things. We Because the problem is we only see, you know, today's world, and today's world may be true or maybe not true, because most of the time, um, our world, you know, it is not exactly like it was before. uh, just what I'm doing right now. See, for example, what we are doing right now. We are supposed to be face to face, see each other, and then learn from each other. But now we are using this platform, the online platform, to see each other, to learn it from each other. So so I'm not physically in front of you. I'm not there, but I'm conveying my message to you, right? So the things are changing. Things are, it seems like, not real, because now, in future, you know, the AI going to come, right? Augmented reality is going to come, right? The industrial revolution is going to come. So things are even going fast, moving fast. But in order to understand the Quran and Sunnah, we need to understand the reality first. What exactly, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says mal, what exactly mal? Because today I can say cryptocurrency is a mal, right? I can say it, but I need to also understand what exactly dirhams and dinar means, right? Without understanding the dirhams and dinars, it is difficult for us to understand Quranic verses. Uh, Today we understand money means ringgit, right? Um, Maybe 20 years ago, money means the currency, paper currency. But today, most of us, we don't even use paper currency. We only use, you know, our ATM card, our phones to transfer the money, right? We have bank accounts to transfer, right? So now it become digital money, right? Digital currency. It's been paper currency, digital currency. We don't even keep money with us. It is always
Like
there.
blockchain.
Like blockchain. Thank you. Look at blockchain, Sabrine. Thank you. So now, because of the recent blockchain technology, we have this cryptocurrency. You know, people are mining for it. You know, it's a different way of looking, because there is no bank in between. So cryptocurrency is, clearing all the obstacles between you and your agent, between you and your bank, so that you can deal directly with your party. So of course the things are changing, but but it is good to understand the new world. Of course we need to understand, but without understanding the old world, no, cannot. Without understanding the traditional money, without understanding the traditional goods, without understanding the traditional mal, then we will have a problem. All right. That's why people, you know, we can see so many cases today, you know, become stress. There is no single reason to be stressed, but the things are making us to become stress today. Education becomes stress, finance market become stress, job market become stress, even family matters become stress, even friends and family, I mean, even your friends, even the entertainment world, you know, everything becomes stress. That's because, very simple thing, that's because we fail to understand the reality of our life. You know, if my phone is not working for 2 days, if my phone is not working for 2 days, not even for day, even if it is for one day, my phone is not working, I become desperate. huh? I become, it's like, you know, I'm losing the world. It's like, you know, the whole world is nothing for me if I lose my phone for one day. See, that is what actually, that is what the problem is today. Because we are the human being. I don't know how many million years we are living here in this world. We were not dependent on anything. We were self-sufficient, right? So we people, we were self reliable. We were doing our on our own. Just imagine 20 years ago, before 2000, if I have to call you, I will just find you. I know where you are. Huh? If I have to, if I have to talk to you, I will find you, right? If you have to pass a message to me, you will tell someone to pass message to me, and we've been communicating fine. We've been doing everything fine. And my, there were limitation of my travel, there was a limitation of my approach. You know, everything was within the section, within the place, everything. But today, you know, but we were good without phone. We've been living, but today it becomes like this. Today I have to say this, that can how am I supposed to live without phone? But it is possible. Someone can live without phone. Do you want to know who is actually today living without phone? Do you want to know who lives today without a handphone, without a mobile phone? Do you know who he is? Our honorable Tansri, our rector of this university. Remember that. Your rector of this University of Islam, Tansri Zulkifli, he has no phone. He doesn't use mobile phone. He only use laptop. Whenever you have to communicate, if you email to him, he will email back immediately. That how he is sufficient. He is not using the phone. Understand? There is no WhatsApp for him. There is no Facebook for him. You know, there is no, but he is still running the entire university. Can you believe? All right. So I'm just trying to give you, I'm not asking you to, uh, you know, throw your phone away. I'm not asking you to throw your phone away. Then it will be difficult for me. How am I supposed to contact you? But I'm just saying we don't have to be dependent on what's going on now. All right. That's why the reality is always there, and we need to go back and understand the reality. So this is one of the things that when we talk about wealth, al-mal, rather than thinking about the virtual wealth, you know, the digital wealth is there, but it is nothing without the reality. It is nothing without the traditional mal. All right. Traditional mal is actually, what I mean by that, it is actually the raw materials, right? When it comes to business, the raw materials, for example, rice, wheat, sugar, you know, wood or oil, or, you know, those are the raw materials. You know, those are the things considered as a mal, is a wealth. Whoever has it, he can actually exchange it. You know, people, you know, get it from one place and then take it to another place, and then they actually sell it to somebody with a profit. So that's how things works. All right. So let's move on. This is what actually I just now I told you, the theory of property. Property is the subject matter of ownership. It is one of the essential and all forms of wealth, intellectual properties, patent, copyrights, confidential information, and trade secrets. All right. Okay. So this is the definition of the property. All right. Let's talk about definition. Al-mal in the Holy Quran and Sunnah. Right. Al-mal, not only the word mal, sometimes you have amwal. Mal is a singular. Amwal is actually plural. Okay, for example, sometimes Allah says al-malu wal-banuna zinatu hayat. Sometimes Allah says wa tuhibbuna al-mala hubban jamma. Sometimes Allah says, فَلَا تُعْجِبُكَ أَمْوَالُهُمْ أَمْوَالَهُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُهُم. So these are the words Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use in many places. So 83 times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the word al-mal and its derivatives in Quran. Then Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also used the word ni'mal al-mal as-salih lil-mar'i as-salih. All right. But still, ni'mal al-mal as-salih means what? Lil-mar'i as-salih means mar is actually human being. Good for good human being. What exactly the good wealth? So this is what the hadith talks about. You know, even when in one place, Prophet ﷺ said, a very good wife, a good spouse is actually a good mal, good wealth for a human being. All right. Okay. Anyway, all this word mal, it's already there in Quran and Sunnah. Now, if you ask me, what is the definition of mal? All right. What is the, because we need to talk about every single thing starting from the definition, right? So if you, like I gave you the definition of fiqh, definition of usul al-fiqh, right? Now we need to talk about definition. So the first thing we need to know about mal, there is no specific definition given by Quran and Sunnah. Even though mal was quite famous terminologies, of course, without using the mal, all right, there is no transactions, right? So Arabs were, you know, the Makkah and Medina, especially the Medina and Makkah Arabs, they were actually entrepreneurs. They were actually, you know, business people, especially the Meccans, all right, especially the Meccans, because Medina mostly, Ansaris, they were farmers, agricultural sectors. But when it comes to business sector, I think the Meccans, Muhajirin, they were very good. That's why when Abdul Rahman ibn Auf came to Medina, he started selling, and then he became, you know, the richest person in entire, you know, Medina. But what is the definition of mal? It is not there. Why it is not there? Not necessary to say what is mal, because everybody they know. The Arabs that time when Allah refer the word al-mal, for sure they know. All right, they know what is mal. That's the reason why it is not necessary for Quran and Sunnah has to say what is mal. But when it comes to you know, literal meaning and also the traditional meaning, then there are some differences. But literally speaking, al-mal is something that, you know, which can be acquired, possessed, and owned. All right, this is what literal meaning. What includes all things. So remember three things. One is acquired, number two possessed, number three owned. All right, linguistically, things which are not possessed, if you cannot possess something, it is not actually a wealth, we call it. But remember, possessing here means I'm talking about the physical possessing. There is also virtual possessing, that is something different. All right, so here they talk about the literal possessing, meaning to say that, for example, you cannot possess free air or the heat or the light from the moon. So I cannot say that, okay, I own this light from the sun. I own this air, the oxygen that comes from this tree. All right, I cannot say that because I cannot actually possess. So remember that traditionally speaking, al-mal is something to possess, acquire, or own. All right, knowledge, health, honor, or intelligence are also not properties, as they cannot be possessed. But later we will talk about intellectual property. That is actually something different. The copyright, you know, the trademark, the secret, which is actually, for example, a paper, your paper writing and everything can become intellectual property. But basically speaking, right, generally speaking, knowledge, health, honor, intelligence cannot become the properties. All right, property linguistically should has beneficial use in accordance with the accepted customs. See, customs, the uruf also is important here to understand. Things such as carrion, even though this carrion means jifa. Jifa is actually dead meat, all right? Poisonous food, which is not benefit to anyone, cannot become property. You know, that's the reason why we actually cannot sell something dead. For example, I have a chicken. Before I want to slaughter, bismillah, then the chicken died already, then it become dead animal. The dead animal cannot become the property. You cannot sell the dead animal to anybody, right? The same time, the poisonous food, something poison. Even today, sometimes people are selling. I mean, in the market, there's a poisons are there for the purpose. But usually poisonous food, it's because it is something that makes someone die. Whatever that makes someone into put into danger cannot be sold, because there is no benefit, there's only harm. All right. Also, something you have, but at the same time it is not useful enough, it is not going to be useful. For example, a drop of water. What do you think a drop of water can do? Or a single seed of rice? All right, we don't know what do you think the single seed of rice can do? So it cannot be property unless if the water is different. For example, you have a drop of perfume. All right, perfume is a water, but it's a drop of perfume, might be, might has some essential, might has some values. It's a different thing. And then also seed, if it is a planting seed, for example, right? There are some seed, you can use it for the plantation. All right. If that is the case, it's different. Other than normally speaking, drop of water, single seed of rice is not considered a property, because there is there is no use of it. Okay, whatever it is, there is no use of it, it cannot become a property. All right. Then now we are going to talk about the traditional meaning of property. We talked about the literal meaning of the property. Okay, now we need to talk about what exactly, how mal has been understood, starting from the four imams. All right, so there are two views. Okay, try to understand with me. There are two views on property. Number one, the first view is a majority view. The second one is, majority means Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. These three became majority. And then the second view is actually Imam Abu Hanifa. All right. I want you to understand this because it will help you throughout this chapter and the next chapter and the next chapter. It will help you. How, which one is mal according to majority, which one is not mal according to Hanafi, right? Based on it, you will understand the rest of the chapter. So according to the majority, the first view, anything has a financial value, anything has a financial value, it become property. All right. For example, if someone is if someone is actually demolishing your property, someone is throwing your property, it could be anything. If it has a financial value, then it will become property. You cannot say that, okay, he throw my stuff, uh, which has um, uh, uh, which has no financial value, then actually it cannot become the property. All right. For example, there is a envelope, right? And then someone, you took your stuff from the envelope. The envelope is nothing now. If someone throw the envelope, because it has no financial value, because it comes together as a wrapping, for example, wrapping paper. All right, wrapping paper, it has no financial value after you wrap it up, or not before wrapping, after you use, because this wrapping paper is actually can be used only for once, right? So once you have used it, so the purpose has been used. I mean, the purpose has been given. So for that reason, there is no financial value. So now, if someone destructing of which, I mean, if by the destruction of which a person is held responsible, either it is much or little, the financial value of a certain things determines whether it is property or not. Again, according to majority, most of it actually is a mal. Like I told you, whatever comes with financial value. For example, you can actually say it like, there is a renting house, and then when you are renting a house, you are, of course, you are renting the house. You are renting the house from me, so that is my house, but you are renting it. You are going to be residing in that house. So you become the tenant, all right? I become the owner. So as a owner, of course, I own the property. But are you the owner? Are you the owner? So now you are the tenant and you are actually staying in my house, but uh, you have already agreed, you and me, between us there is an agreement of tenancy. There's agreement of rental, which is called ijara. All right. So now that particular 1 month you paid me with some money, you paid me the rental so that you can stay for that particular month. So now you are doing something which has a financial value. I mean, I am the owner, I am the house owner, and you are the tenant, and you are staying in my house, but you paid me the rental. The moment you paid me the rental for that next 30 days, you are going to stay in my house, which means you become the owner of usifrat. The word usifrat in English, in Arabic, it is manfa'ah. I think in Malay also manfa'ah, I think. Manfa'ah, I think, benefits. So because you become the usage, the manfa'ah, it is called usifrat. usufruct, usifrat. So now you become the owner of the usifrat. I become the owner of the house, right? So now you have some financial value. So according to the majority scholars, that is actually mal. You got my point? All right. That is actually property. Even though I have property, my own property, which is a physical property, but you are staying there for 30 days, which means that 30 days you already given me some money and you own the usifrat. So now you are the owner of the usifrat, owner of the manfa'a. So you own a property. So now, according to the majority, you actually can sell, can not cancel. You can sell your usifrat to somebody. You actually can give it to somebody. All right. For example, you take from me for 500 ringgit, and then you need to also inform the owner. You cannot simply, because if the owner said you can stay, nobody else can stay, it's a different agreement. But what I'm trying to tell here is your usifrat, it has a financial value, and you can actually transfer your financial value to somebody. But according to Hanafi, it is not. According to Hanafi, it is the opposite, because for them, they want to go with the literal meaning of property. So they say that usifrat cannot become the property. Usifrat can stay together with the property itself. That's because usifrat, it comes under incomplete property. It is not complete property. So they call it incomplete. So for that reason, they say it is not a property. So let us see the views. As I told you, the first view is the majority. Whatever comes with a financial value, they call it property. The second one is Hanafi's view. Okay, according to Hanafi, whatever can be possessed and can be used for later use, can be stored for later use. Understand? The Hanafi confined the meaning of property to valuable things that could be possessed and stored for later use. Right? For later use. So something that you possess, you possess an orange, and then you kept somewhere so that it can be used for the later use. You store somewhere so that you can be used for the later. It can be later. It can be used later. Then it become the property according to the Hanafi. All right. Now, when it comes to intangible asset, intangible asset is what just now I told you, the usifat, manfa'ah. It becomes what? intangible asset. This argument exclude intangible asset such as usufruct, manfa'a, and rights from the definition of the property. For example, residing in a house, all right, a lift in a car. For example, you are booking a Grab. Now, you are not the owner of the car, but for that particular moment, for 30 minutes or 20 minutes, you are sitting inside the car. You are going from UIA to Kuala Lumpur. So that 20 minutes, you are the owner of the usufruct. All right. According to the majority, it is a property. But according to Hanafi, it is not a property. All right. I will tell you later why they have this difference. Why exactly we are having these two views. We will come back to that. Why? Because there is a reason why we are discussing this, which we will know later when we talk about classification. You will understand. All right. So intangible asset, as I told you, residing in a house, a lift in a car, a labor do not have their own corpus and independent existence and are cannot be physically possessed. It is only through uruf and istihsan, it is only through custom, we call it, I mean, they argue in favor of contract. It can become contract. We are not saying that, I mean, Hanafi not saying that it cannot become contract. Even though it is not a property, it is still can be counted, can be considered to deal with, can be considered to be a part of your contract because according to uruf, according to istihsan. You remember the word istihsan and uruf, we talked about it in secondary sources of usul al-fiqh before this, right? That's why you need to go back there and then learn what is uruf and istihsan. It has to be useful here. According to that only, we are saying that it is actually part of the contract. All right. And then they also, this is actually Hanafi view, not majority view. This is the Hanafi view. According to Hanafi also, that's the reason why they say a contract of ijara is terminated when the death of either the landlord or the tenant. This is also most important. If one of them die, it cannot be given to the another one. Why? Because it is not miras. It is not inheritance. Usually, if someone die, their property will go to who? It will go to the son or the daughter or the wife or the relatives, right? It will go according to the fara'id. So now, according to Hanafi, it is not fara'id. It cannot go to son. It cannot go to somebody. Why? Because it is not a property. It has to be property, right? If it is fara'id, it has to be property. But according to majority scholars, they say if my father died and he residing in a house and I'm entitled to stay in the same house without renewing the contract, because it is also a kind of inheritance that I'm getting it. For example, the house, for example, the what they call it, the landlord, the shop lot, right? Even the shop lot also can continue to be there because it is a kind of fara'id, because it considered property according to majority, right? Okay. So now this is what actually I wanted to tell you, the two views. All right. Later we will discuss inshallah why we talk about these two views. All right. Now let us go to classification of property. There are 6 classification of property. Let me do 1 or 2 today. Then the remaining one, inshallah, we will do it in the next class. Or maybe let me do one thing, at least one. All right. I will keep the remaining one for the next class. Okay, the first one is, I already told you why we want to talk about classification, because as I told you, when it comes to property and when it comes to fiqh al-muamalat, the fuqaha, they want to, divide and classify all kinds of properties, because now you have so many kinds of property. Some properties, like I told you, you can say valuable, non-valuable properties. You can say movable, immovable properties. You can say perishable, non-perishable properties. Because property is not a single thing. right? Do you agree with me? Properties are many things, sometimes even complex things. Sometimes properties can become complex. Sometimes even properties can become problems to many people, right? So there is a need to classify the property. What kind of characteristics that you need to say property? We talked about it. Now there are so many characteristics, not one actually. There is not one characteristic. There are so many characteristics for the properties. So now, in order to understand everything, we need to do the classification. Okay, for example, why we need to do classification? For example, you have so many dresses. For example, yeah, you have so many dresses in your closet. How do you classify your closet? Huh? Because you will say, okay, these are the dress for this occasion. Hmm? These are the dress like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for this occasion. Maybe this one for the wedding occasion, this one for the office occasion, this one for, just for entertainment occasion, this one for when I sleep, all right, this one for when I go to sports, all right, this one for this one for this. So now you got the point what I mean by classification, right? So you need to make sure that your closet is properly arranged. Otherwise, when you need to find something, it will be difficult. If you put everything together, you know what they call the Malay word? One of my favorite word actually. They call it kalankabot. Huh? Everything is kalankabot. It is actually very difficult. If it is, everything together, mixed together, how do you define, how do you get your things? So that's why it has to be arranged. So now there are so many complex characteristics for the properties. That's why Fuqaha, they classified it. So the first one today, inshallah, we talk about it, which is called based on the value of the property according to Sharia. So there are valuable and non-valuable properties. Why we are discussing this valuable and non-valuable? The consequences will come. Remember, for each and every classification, there is a consequences. What I mean by the consequences, um, Fuqaha is actually doing this because if in case you have problem in this, then according to this classification, you will get the solution. All right. So let's see what is valuable. It's called mutaqawim, which is property includes all permissible things in Sharia and things that can be processed and secured. All right. Everything is actually valuable properties. Whatever you can process, whatever you can secure, whatever is halal and tayyiban is actually valuable. Non-valuable is actually, that whatever that Sharia has been prohibited, whatever Sharia has prohibited, like wine, pork, and everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited, it become non-valuable property. Why we call it wine is not a property? Why we call it interest is not a commodity? Because according to Islamic banking, interest cannot become commodity. In fact, money also cannot become property. Sorry, money is not a commodity. The interest is not a commodity because interest is being prohibited by Sharia. So whatever Sharia prohibits, we cannot use it in selling and buying. That's why interest cannot become the commodity. Same as wine and pork. All things which cannot be possessed. For example, you cannot possess a bird while it is flying, a fish while it is swimming. All right. If you possess the fish, if you hand down the bird, then it become yours. All right. If there are minerals in the earth, it cannot become the property until you extract out, and then it become your property. So now, while it is in the sky, while it is, so you can give so many examples like that. I cannot say that, okay, that whatever you see on the floor is my property. No, until you process it and you give it. That's why they say when you are in the ocean and you are actually fishing, don't sell anything in the ocean until you reach the shore. until you reach the land, because when you reach the land, then only it becomes property, because then only you can actually exchange to somebody. All right, because you may have fishes in the ocean, but there's a possibility that the fishes may go back to the sea. All right, then the party, I mean the seller and buyer will have problems. All right. Okay, now let us talk about the consequence. What is the consequences? The validity of the contract. Yes, depends on whether the subject matter of contract is valuable, non-valuable. All contract and non-valuable properties are considered void, because anything is if you conclude something on non-valuable properties according to Sharia, it becomes cancel, void, batil. It is because Sharia prohibits. Right now, what happens if um, I I destroyed somebody's non-valuable property? You understand? This is what the consequence I said. Because why they talk about this classification? Because this is one example scenario that I happen to destroy somebody's non-valuable property. All right, but it depends. Now the question is whether that non-valuable property belong to Muslims or belong to non-Muslims. Because first of all, let's talk about Muslim. If I destroy somebody's non-valuable properties, if he is a Muslim, for him also it is not a property. But what if it is for non-Muslims? Because non-Muslims, they don't follow our Sharia, am I right? So for non-Muslim, they may have a factory of wine. They may have a lot of pork, and they may have the like yard of pork and pigs and everything. So what if someone destroyed? According to Abu Hanifa, he says that the compensation must be given. Why? Because it is a non-valuable uh, property to you, but it is not non-valuable property to the non-Muslims. Right? But the majority says, if it is even to the non-Muslims, the majority school says that it is a non-valuable properties for both of us, for Muslims and non-Muslims. Therefore, the compensation cannot be given. But the problem here is, if someone accidentally destroyed and someone intentionally destroyed, two different things. All right, because our law, especially the law in our country, cannot allow us to go and destroy somebody's property intentionally. We cannot do that, even though it is a non-valuable properties according to your belief. But it is not allowed to destroy somebody's property uh, intentionally. All right, if it happened mistakenly, it's a different story. But if it happened intentionally, then we are actually creating disharmony among the community. All right, okay, so I will stop here. Then inshallah we will continue this number 2 until number 6 in the next class. So this is your attendance, please.